Hi you guys, welcome to the channel. My name is La and we're gonna go ahead and get into it. So I've been divinely guided to read Aaliyah's birth chart. I was getting channeled the movie Queen of the Damned, and I didn't know that was an Egyptian goddess, and like I'm obsessed with vampires, always have been. And then I saw this girl with a shirt that named Aaliyah on it. And then on top of that, I seen a girl with a shirt and it said Death Row on it. Even though she wasn't signed to Death Row, that was still around that time. So I think that's very important. And then on top of that, I was hearing 4-Page Letter. I actually rewrote that song when I was a kid. I was probably like in the I was a kid. I rewrote that song. I was probably like 4th grade. But anyway, so this led me to want to get curious about her birth chart. As you guys can see, we are on astroseek.com. We're doing Side Row Astrology Calculator. She's born January 16th, 1973. She was born in New York. This is what her actual chart looks like, but since you guys don't know how to read it this way, I'm gonna go and read it down. That way you guys can follow me with it. Keep in mind, this isn't going into the padas or the nakshatras. We're just gonna read a quick basic review about her chart, okay? So if you were to book a birth chart reading with me, it would be more in depth. And you would also get a copy book along with it, okay? You wouldn't just get a video. You would get little incentives that come with booking a reading with me. So, Aaliyah, first of all, she was a sun sign in Capricorn in the 12th house. So, Capricorn in the 12th house means that she could have felt imprisoned when it came to how she expressed herself in her career. She could have had a lot of karmic contracts with people in her career. This could also be family in her public image. She could have had secrets to how she wished to express herself. There could have been parts of herself that she kept from the public view, because the 12th house talks about past lives, karma, institution, isolations, jails, imprisonment. She also could have felt imprisoned from the way that she was being told to express herself. Capricorn rules contracts, discipline, structure, and fear. So she had lots of fear, probably, especially when it came. She could have even had nightmares, or she could have been a visionary when it came to, I'm sorry, guys, when it came to the way she viewed and expressed herself. Our sun is our ego, and it's the way we wish to be viewed. It's the actor, the character role. Now, when we get deeper into the depths of how she responded emotionally, which would be like her heart chakra, her mind, this would be in Leo in the 7th house. Now, you guys also want to look at the degrees as well. The degrees matter too, because the degrees talk about how much developed the soul is in this particular house placement, in this particular zodiac sign as well. Moving on to Leo being in the 7th house. I want to say she was a hopeless romantic, okay? Leo is that very playful, fun, lighthearted energy. Also with it being in the 7th house of Libra, so this is the 5th and the 7th house. Both of those houses talk about romance, getting to know people, okay? With this placement right here in the moon, what really fulfilled her heart was being able to be entertained, being able to have playful relationships, you know, that weren't so serious, because already she felt so serious when it came to the way she had to express herself. Her close partnerships and relationships, she wanted them to inspire her and be youthful, give her a sense of joy when she came around. She could also had enemies who came and played around as they were joyful and inspiring and playful and uplifting and entertaining, but they just wanted her to entertain them. Seventh house also rules house of hidden enemies, so she could have had lots of hidden enemies, with her sun being in the 12th house in Capricorn, and her moon being in the 7th house of Leo. Okay, she could have attracted lovers who weren't really serious and big on commitment, being that it's only in the 7th house. When you get into the 8th house, that's when things get a little more deeper and serious. So she could have had a lot of you know, what's the word, I don't want to say one night stands, but flings. She could have had flings. Lots of relationships that didn't really last very long here. Not lots, but you know, in her lifetime, she had a few, because Leos like to date, they like to play, and they like to meet people. With her Mercury in communication being in the sign of Sagittarius at 17 degrees, she was very big on having a higher consciousness, a higher point of view, a more universal point of view when it came to things. Sagittarius can sometimes, in a negative but point of view, if it was lower degrees, could have been very dogmatic, but with it being in the 11th house, this lets me know that she was a very free thinker, and she didn't just think about herself as an individual. She thought more in a collective view and how she can make an impact in the collective. She might have been very preachy as well, with Mercury and 17 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius. She could have been very knowledgeable and very wise in her field, especially when it came to education. She could have known lots of information that you can't really find in books. It comes from experience. You can also tell that her wanting to travel, and her voice would be very powerful with it being in the 11th house. She would be able to call in groups of people, and they would be inspired with it being in the fire sign of Sagittarius at 17 degrees. She would inspire groups of people from whatever it is in communications, reading, writing, speaking, teaching, learning, listening, okay? With it being in the fire sign means she was very inspirational. As you guys know, the legend still lives. With her Venus in Scorpio at a higher degree, it's kind of in the middle, so she could have had an obsessive... She could have been obsessed with her career. With it being in the 10th house, 10th house talks about your public image, okay? She could have also been obsessive when it comes to things in the form of detective work or occult knowledge. Here with the 10th house, she could have, this could be a part of herself that she kept away from the public, here with it being in the 12th house. With Venus and the sign of Scorpio talks about a person who's very possessive as well, and they also like people who have that innocence to them, that youthful spirit here. This is what she's attracted to, definitely confirming with her moon in Leo and Venus and Scorpio. She was attracted to people who were strong-minded and career-focused, but also very mystical in a sense. With her Mars and Capricorn in the 12th house connecting to the sun, she didn't play, especially when it came to the way she was presenting herself and expressing herself. She might have felt isolated as well, or even challenged by individuals that she had contracts with when it came to expressing herself as an individual. With it being in such low degrees, Capricorn is very ruthless. This energy is like win at all costs, step on anybody's neck to get to the top of where I need to get to go. This is not somebody I would want to make angry, especially with it being in the 12th house. The 12th house is your subconscious mind. And with her subconscious mind being in Mars, this could mean she had a lot of sacred rage, a lot of sacred anger, a lot of sacred energy, especially when it came to the way that she expressed herself. She probably even surprised herself sometimes when she expressed herself throughout her career. With Jupiter being in Cancer, this is the placement of your philosophy, okay? What it is you believe in, your belief system, your gifts, your roots. That's where this Cancer comes in. With it being in the 6th house in retrograde. 6th house is also the house of hidden enemies as well. This is your routine. Okay. With it being in retrograde, she had to rethink over and over again about what her philosophy and belief system is, what the roots are that she wanted to leave, the foundation she wanted to build. She might have rethought it or had to go over and over again, and probably kept rebuilding something, probably because she traveled so much. With Jupiter and Cancer, this could talk about traveling to your homelands. Okay, traveling to where your ancestors live, traveling back to your roots. So she was very heavily, deeply studied in her roots, in her upbringing, and where she came from. With Saturn and Leo, this talks about that restriction there with it in retrograde. Like I said, she probably had a couple of love affairs, partnerships, or even contracts where she had to reanalyze because they were making her feel trapped, isolated, or just outcasted in some way, kind of like imprisonment, because that's what that 12th house energy is. It rules imprisonments as well, whether this be mentally or physically. With her Uranus and Libra, in the 9th house, this talks about her wanting people to see not only her truth, but since it's in a higher degree and a lower aspect in Libra, it could be only thinking that your truth is the only truth, instead of seeing that they have a truth, you have a truth, and then there is the truth. So with it being in Uranus, she had a very analytical way of thinking, especially when it came to the 9th house here. She could see things from the highest perspective and the lowest perspective, and try to come to a more harmonious choice when it came to things that she wanted to develop on in areas that were important to her education or her expanding on her own philosophy. And that just keeps turning on. Now, moving on to her Neptune placement. Neptune is the planet of fantasies, illusions, photography, okay, addictions, fear, faith. Okay, with it being in Scorpio, you can tell that she was heavily, deeply psychic. With it being in the 10th house, she probably predicted a lot of the contracts that she was going to be able to sign. If her gifts were developed, if she was actively developing those gifts, she probably had very intuitive dreams. She could have even had nightmares. With this placement, I can now see how she played the role of Queen of the Damned in the movie, because this placement right here with Neptune, this talks about her being able to see hidden enemies that aren't very much visible. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But with it being at a high octave here, she could have had spurts of depression. Okay, she could have dealt with melancholy, especially when it came to things about her public image or her career. Now, her Pluto is in Virgo in the 8th house. This is someone who's very strong, very critical, very, I want to say very organized, because it's in Virgo at a high degree. Virgo at a lower degree would be someone who's like a hoarder and very disorganized. She could have had a lot of anxiety in her mind, or anxiety when it came to releasing her power over to, like, releasing her power of her routine over to someone else. It could have gave her anxiety, or even made her, like, I want to say, a little paranoid. She also would receive large amounts of inheritance from being very detail orientated. As you guys can see, most of her videos were very detail orientated. With Virgo being in Pluto, this gives a person who has a strong desire to be of service. Okay, this also gives a person who's very gifted. She could have had a green thumb, with it being in the 8th house, which is death and rebirth. Okay, and with it being in Virgo, she was also very picky with partners she was closely intimate with. She wasn't just getting intimate with nobody. Not with that Virgo in the 8th house. At that high degree, no. Her North Node was in Leo in the 7th house, but it was retrograde. So like I said, this could have been a struggle for her when it came to her partnerships. Her either being played for being the playful spirit or her attracting the playful spirit. Now her Lilith is in the 6th house. This talks about having a bad mom or her being a bad mom. It is at a higher degree. Lilith is our darker side. It's like the black moon. Okay. With it being in the 6th house, definitely could have been some type of alcoholism or some type of verbal abuse in relationship to her mother or within her roots. This could also be like, what's the word I'm thinking? I'm trying to think. Okay, my mind is stuck. Okay, Cancer. This is like... her mother could have been very judgmental or critical of her. And this could have affected her in the way that she saw people, saw herself, in the way that she dated people. With Chiron being in Aries, this talks about self-development. She struggled with her values, what it is that she valued as an individual. With it being in a lower octave here, she could have been very competitive and very resilient. This is like being a rebel, but not always having a cause to be a rebel here. Her ascendant was a sign of Capricorn at 28 degrees. So she was very, 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 very business orientated. She didn't play them games. She didn't come to play. She came to become a multi-billionaire, millionaire. She didn't come to play, and she didn't play nice, okay? With her descendant being in Cancer, she struggled with balancing her work and home life as well here, as you can see with this placement. She might have came off as someone who was very superficial, but really on the inside, her shadow aspect internally is someone who's very kind, nurturing, loving, and compassionate. This can also show an emotional manipulator and someone who can be emotionally abusive, if even narcissistic as well. So this was a short little review of Aaliyah's birth chart. I thought it was cool to come up on here. This isn't even like her dharma or anything like that. This is just like the basics of her birth charts. I was trying to see if you guys could like see her name, but I guess not. Yeah, this was the reading. If you guys want to get your own analysis, I do offer a book with it along with a detailed video. We get into things like your dharma, what it is your karma, what it is your soul needs to be liberated from. Okay, we go into different aspects of this, your padas, your nakshatras as well. Once again, the link to all this information you can find in the description box down below. Thank you for tuning in with me. I wish you guys the best of luck, and I appreciate all who hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Take care.